Chosen one. Heaven can't keep this secret from you anymore. The air around you feels charged, as if the atmosphere itself is holding its breath. Something holy is breaking through the silence, something meant only for you. For months, even years, your spirit has been restless. You've asked why doors shut, why prayers seemed unanswered, why the quiet felt endless. But the silence was never empty. It was sacred. Heaven was writing your story behind the curtain. And now, the curtain is being pulled back. You are standing at the edge of divine revelation. The secret that heaven has held close is about to erupt into your life like dawn splitting the horizon. Every hidden moment, every unseen tear has been part of the choreography of destiny. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. What you thought was delay was really design. Do you feel that subtle trembling in your chest? That's the sound of destiny awakening. Heaven has waited until this exact second because timing is everything in the kingdom. When the appointed hour arrives, no force in hell can stop it. The silence you endured was proof of how valuable the revelation is. God hides his greatest treasures in the deepest quiet. You are like a seed that's been buried beneath layers of time and pressure. At first, it felt like death. Everything around you seemed dark, tight, and cold. But the soil wasn't your coffin, it was your cocoon. While you thought you were being buried, you were being rooted. And now, the first crack of light breaks through. Heaven cannot contain what it's about to release through you. There was once another chosen one, a woman named Leah, overlooked, rejected. Yet heaven saw her tears and turned them into nations. She didn't realize that what looked like rejection was actually redirection. Her womb birthed lineage, legacy, and kingship. That's how God works. He hides greatness inside what feels like grief. You may not see it yet, but something is already shifting. The voice of God thunders in the book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 9. Behold, the former things have come to pass, and new things I now declare before they spring forth. I tell you of them. That's what heaven is doing now, declaring before your eyes what was spoken in secret. You've entered the season of unveiling. The new thing is not just an idea, it's an encounter, a tangible shift. You will sense it in conversations, in sudden clarity, in divine interruptions. This is the sound of fulfillment. For so long, you've wondered why heaven was quiet. But silence is not absence, it's incubation. The same God who hid you is now revealing you, and what's emerging from this silence is stronger, wiser, and more radiant than what went into it. You've been in a divine waiting room, but the door has just opened. Chosen one. Listen. When God decides that your time has come, He speaks to creation itself on your behalf. He whispers to hearts that carry your answers. He shifts atmospheres to align with your arrival. What's been locked is unlocking. What's been delayed is now accelerating. This is the hour heaven couldn't keep quiet about. Don't shrink back. Don't question your worth. You were prepared for this very unfolding. Stand still. Breathe. And let the light rise over your life. Heaven has already said yes. All that's left is for you to agree with it. If this word resonates in your spirit, express it. Like, share, and subscribe, not out of habit, but as a prophetic act of agreement. Type 555 inches, the comments to mark this moment. To say, I am ready for what's being revealed. Let that number be a symbol of divine transition, of grace multiplied over your journey. The secret has been spoken, the silence has broken, and heaven, once restrained, is now roaring your name across eternity. The air itself seems to shimmer as if creation is listening. You can almost hear the rhythm of wings, angels moving into position around the prophecy that bears your name. This is the hour where what was invisible becomes undeniable. Heaven's silence has turned into sound, and that sound is victory. Every chain that once kept you small begins to loosen now. You will walk differently, speak differently, believe differently. For when heaven releases a secret, it also releases authority. Step forward with your head lifted high, because what is coming is not fragile, it's eternal. Remember, chosen one. This is not the end of your waiting, it is the beginning of your unveiling. Heaven has spoken, and this time, the earth will echo. You begin to understand now the things that once felt random were not accidents but coordinates written into your life's hidden blueprint. Every closed door, every sudden detour, was part of an architecture too precise to be human. You didn't see the pattern before because heaven never shows the full design until the foundation is ready. But now, as light filters through the cracks, you recognize it. Divine geometry unfolding beneath your feet. You start to trace it backward. The seasons of silence that shaped your endurance, the disappointments that refined your discernment, even the heartbreaks that tore you open just enough for compassion to take root. All of it was intentional. What you called loss, heaven called alignment. Think of Joseph sold, forgotten, imprisoned. His story looked like ruin until one morning Pharaoh sent for him, and every painful thread suddenly wove itself into purpose. That's how God builds destiny, backward, in layers, until the very thing that broke you becomes the platform that lifts you. You are walking through the same divine architecture. Every stone of your past was positioned for this moment of revelation. Sometimes, heaven hides purpose inside problems because only pressure reveals potential. You were tested not to destroy you, but to measure your capacity. What looked like delay was the stretching of your spirit, so it could hold greater weight. The secret blueprint was never about comfort, it was about construction. And you, chosen one, are the cathedral being built. Look closely at your journey. You've met people who appeared only for a season, yet they left lessons that shaped eternity within you. You've stepped into places that felt wrong at the time, only to realize later they were training grounds. God is a master architect. He builds with both beauty and brokenness. He drafts miracles using the ink of mystery. There's a sacred moment when you realize that the pattern of your life has symmetry, that the very things you tried to escape from are now the pillars of your purpose. The pain taught you to pray differently. The waiting taught you to hear differently. The rejection taught you to stand differently. Heaven was coding resilience into your soul. And now, the pattern begins to make sense. The silence wasn't punishment. It was programming. Heaven was writing data into your spirit, calibrating your reactions, teaching you how to navigate storms without capsizing. You're not who you were at the beginning of this journey, and that's the point. Destiny requires evolution. It is written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Those words now echo through your memories like light catching on glass. Every time you thought you were lost, God was adjusting your steps, redirecting your path to intersect with promise. Even your missteps were rerouted by mercy. You see, divine blueprints don't reveal themselves all at once, because revelation without readiness becomes ruin. If you had seen the full map too early, fear would have sabotaged your faith. But God, wise, patient, strategic, released each instruction at the exact moment your heart could handle it. There's beauty in that restraint. It means heaven trusted your growth process. The pauses were not divine hesitation, but divine precision. Like a sculptor who knows when to stop chiseling, God knew when to let you breathe. He knew when to let you stumble, so that humility could deepen your roots. He knew when to stay silent, so that hunger could sharpen your hearing. Now, as you stand in the light of understanding, you realize that every piece was necessary. The waiting taught you patience, the losses taught you gratitude, and together they have formed the sacred blueprint that heaven is now unveiling through you. When you look back, you'll no longer see chaos, you'll see choreography. You'll see how perfectly every mistake became material for a masterpiece. You'll see how every unanswered prayer became the framework for something greater than what you asked for. This revelation doesn't shout, it hums quietly in your soul. You were never wandering, you were being woven. Heaven has been drawing lines between the dots of your story, connecting pain to purpose, silence to song, ashes to beauty. And the pattern that's emerging is radiant with divine symmetry. Now you know God didn't hide the blueprint from you. He hid it for you until you were ready to see it. And now, with your eyes open and your spirit steady, you can finally read what heaven has been writing all along. The ink of every trial glows gold now, spelling one truth across your soul: nothing was wasted, and everything was preparation for glory. The pain that once felt unbearable now begins to make sense. You start to see that it was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to transform you. Every tear, every disappointment, every prayer that seemed unanswered was a piece of holy architecture. Heaven wasn't punishing you, heaven was perfecting you. Pain is a divine language. When God wants to grow something eternal inside you, He doesn't use comfort, He uses breaking. Because only broken soil can carry new seeds. You thought He was silent, but He was digging, planting, preparing a deeper foundation. Every sleepless night was a line of prophecy written on your soul. There is a sacred story hidden inside every wound. Pain teaches you to listen differently, to see differently, to love without pride, and to forgive without condition. When everything you depended on fell apart, something truer was born within you, the strength that does not come from man but from mercy. You once begged heaven to take the pain away, but heaven whispered, "I will not take it, I will transform it." And slowly, what felt like ashes began to shimmer with traces of gold. It is written in the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2 to 4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. This was your refining. You were being completed. The fire that burned around you was never meant to consume, it was meant to clarify. Every trial peeled away what was temporary, so that what is eternal could finally stand tall. Think of a potter at his wheel. Hands covered in clay. The vessel spins and shakes under pressure. But the potter never lets go. He shapes it with purpose, even when it looks messy. That was you. Heaven's hands have been on your life the entire time. Steady, patient, intentional. I recall a man who lost everything: his family, his home, his hope. For months, he wandered, feeling cursed. One day, while sitting by a broken wall, he realized something profound. The same God who allowed the breaking was also holding the pieces. From that day, his prayers changed. He no longer asked for rescue, he asked for revelation. And that's when restoration began. Chosen one, your story carries the same power. What hurt you didn't end you, it initiated you. It initiated you into depth, compassion, and divine authority. You now speak with the wisdom of one who has been to the edge and returned stronger. Pain has given you X-ray vision. You can now see truth beneath appearances. It has taught you to love, not because it's easy, but because it's sacred. It has trained your spirit to recognize the fingerprints of God, even in the dark. There's a new steadiness in you now, a quiet courage that doesn't need to prove itself. That's what heaven calls maturity. The storm didn't break you, it baptized you. You emerged, drenched in fire and faith. So now, take a deep breath and release every residue of sorrow. You've already passed the test. You are not a victim, you are evidence. Heaven looks at you and sees endurance embodied. If your heart knows this truth is yours, comment these words below. Fire made me. Oh, say it as a declaration. Because it's not just about survival, it's about transformation. Fire didn't take you out. It revealed what could never burn away. It showed the strength that was always inside you. Let those 3 words remind you that your suffering was sacred. Your journey was not wasted. And your scars are proof of glory. You've come through the fire. And you shine now, not despite it, but because of it. Heaven watches. And all of creation bears witness. The chosen one has been forged. You say, fire made me, not as a slogan, but as revelation. It means the pain didn't define you, it refined you. It means your endurance was proof of divine craftsmanship, that the flames which threatened to destroy you instead revealed your true form. Fire made me means you now walk with discernment, sharpened by trials. You can recognize real from counterfeit, strength from noise. You've learned that fire never lies. It burns away pretense and leaves behind only what's pure, eternal, and unbreakable within you. When you write, fire made me, you're telling the world that transformation is possible. You're saying the same flame that once terrified you now testifies through you. You are no longer the one who suffered, you are the one who rose. And when heaven reads your words, it smiles, because even the angels know that your declaration is true. The fire that once raged around you has become the light that guides others home. You've walked through enough nights to know that being misunderstood is part of the journey of the chosen. It hurts when your heart burns with divine purpose. But the world sees only strangeness. When you try to explain what God whispered in secret, and others call it madness, yet what they cannot see is that being set apart is not rejection, it is refinement. There's a loneliness that comes with being chosen. It's not the emptiness of being forgotten, it's the weight of carrying light in a world comfortable with shadows. Every misunderstood soul in Scripture carried that same ache. Noah built an ark in sunshine and was called delusional. Hannah prayed silently, lips trembling, and was mistaken for a drunk. David sang songs to invisible audiences long before anyone called him king. To be chosen is to live misunderstood until heaven's timing vindicates you. You, too, have felt that tension, the feeling of being too much for some and not enough for others. You've had dreams that others laughed at, faith that people couldn't comprehend, and convictions that made you stand alone. But understand this: isolation is not punishment, it's insulation. God separates what he sanctifies. The ancient prophet Hosea knew this truth well. Called to marry someone everyone else despised, he became the living metaphor of God's relentless love. His obedience made no sense to anyone, but heaven wrote his name into eternity. That's what happens when you obey a voice others can't hear. The Spirit spoke long ago through the prophet Hosea. Chapter 2, verse 14. Therefore, I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. Oh, the wilderness, that's where you've been. Misunderstood. Yes, but never abandoned. God leads his chosen ones into quiet places, not to punish them, but to speak to them more clearly. When the noise of others fades, the whispers of heaven become unmistakable. The wilderness is not exile, it's encounter. You might have thought that your isolation was a sign of failure, but now you see it for what it truly was, a sacred classroom. When no one else understood you, God was teaching you to understand him. When people questioned your path, he was shaping your confidence in his voice. He stripped away applause so that you'd no longer need validation to move forward. That's divine freedom. Being misunderstood was part of your preparation. The confusion forced you to listen deeper, to find peace without external confirmation. You learned to stand still when others ran. You learned that purpose doesn't require permission. The same people who once dismissed you will one day witness what God was building in secret. There's beauty in this hiddenness, like a pearl forming in the dark. Your greatness was cultivated in obscurity. You didn't need a stage for transformation, you needed silence. And God gave it to you. Every misunderstood moment was a mirror polishing your character. And now, you carry something rare, unshakable identity. You no longer chase understanding from others because you've learned to be understood by heaven. You walk with a quiet authority that doesn't need to prove anything. The ones who once underestimated you will look again and realize they weren't rejecting you. They were rejecting what they couldn't yet recognize. Even Jesus walked that road, misunderstood by his own family, doubted by his own followers, betrayed by the ones he blessed. Yet not once did he defend himself. He simply fulfilled what heaven assigned. That is your example. Let misunderstanding refine your focus, not wound your confidence. When you carry revelation, you will always seem radical to those still sleeping. Don't try to fit into their understanding. Your vision wasn't given to them. The misunderstanding around you is proof that heaven is trusting you with secrets not yet revealed to the crowd. There will come a moment, quiet, undeniable, when everything hidden becomes visible, when the ones who questioned you will see the fruit of your obedience. And when that happens, you won't feel vindicated by pride, but by peace, because by then, you'll understand that their rejection was part of your protection. Chosen one. Your path was never meant to be crowded. It was meant to be clear. The narrow road is where glory is refined. And though misunderstanding may follow you for a while, it will one day turn into admiration. But by then, you won't even need it because you'll already know who you are. So, walk on with quiet confidence. Let them misunderstand if they must. You are not here to be explained. You are here to be revealed. There's a moment when the quiet inside you turns into clarity, when the voice that's been whispering all along becomes undeniable. That's happening now. The voice of heaven is calling you higher, inviting you to rise above the noise, above the fear, above the doubt that tried to chain your destiny. It starts softly, like a familiar song playing somewhere far away. You can't yet see where it's coming from, but your soul recognizes it. It's the sound of purpose calling your name. You've heard it in your dreams, in the stillness between thoughts, in the moments when you almost gave up. That voice never left you. It was waiting for your yes. When God calls you higher, He doesn't shout, He stirs. He touches something deep inside you that can no longer stay asleep. It's not about striving, it's about surrender. The call is not to do more, but to become more. Heaven speaks again through the words of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19. I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your descendants may live. You are standing right there at the place of choice, to stay the same, or to rise into the life prepared for you. Choosing life means choosing purpose. It means saying yes to growth, yes to obedience, yes to faith. Even when the road is steep, there's a sacred beauty in obedience. It doesn't always make sense, but it always makes transformation. Every time you respond to that inner call, heaven records it. Angels mark your name, not because of perfection, but because of willingness. Think of an eagle learning to fly. The mother doesn't push it out of the nest to be cruel. She knows the wings were never meant to fold forever. She forces it to feel the wind, to trust the invisible strength inside. That's what heaven is doing with you right now, calling you to trust the wind. You've been through the wilderness of misunderstanding and the fire of pain. And now, the horizon opens. The sky is wide. The voice is clear. And God is saying, it's time to soar. And as you rise, something beautiful happens. You begin to see not only your own path, but also those who are still in the valley. You recognize that this message, these words, are not just for you. They are for every soul who's still searching for the sound of heaven's voice in their own storm. That's why what we build here together matters. This space, these messages, these moments of divine alignment, they are not random videos or mere words. They are lifelines. Every view, every whisper of yes in your spirit becomes a ripple of light reaching someone else who needs it. When you click like or share, imagine it not as a button, but as lighting a candle in the dark. Each small flame joins another until 1,000 fires illuminate the night. When you subscribe, see it as planting your flag in this garden of revelation. It's saying, I will grow here, together. Every subscription becomes a constellation, a sky full of witnesses shining for the next chosen one who looks up and needs direction. And if your heart feels led, if you sense that gentle tug of the Spirit, you can also sow a seed of donation into this work, not out of duty, but out of delight. Think of it as dropping a pebble of kindness into a still pond. Its ripples touch unseen shores. Every offering, no matter the size. Becomes part of heaven's echo, hope reaching further than one voice could ever go alone. Whether it's your prayer, your share, or your offering, everything you give becomes part of a living testimony. It says, I believe in what heaven is doing here. It says, this message has fed my spirit, and now I'll help it reach another soul. And remember, this is never demanded of you. It's invitation, not obligation. The voice of heaven never coerces. It calls. You are free, always, to choose how you participate. Chosen one. Heaven watches as you respond in faith, as you rise in courage, as you help light spread one heart at a time. So, if this message has stirred something in you, let it flow naturally. Like, share, subscribe, or donate if you feel led. Each act is a whisper of agreement between you and heaven. This is how the movement grows, not through force, but through faith, not through command, but through compassion. You are part of something divine unfolding, and heaven smiles as you answer the call. There is something sacred about divine timing, how it moves in silence. Unseen, yet unstoppable. You've been wondering why it took so long, why the doors stayed closed, even when your faith was strong. But heaven never works by your calendar. It works by divine alignment. The waiting wasn't punishment, it was protection. Every delay you faced was God's way of preparing both you and the blessing. You weren't being denied, you were being developed. What's about to happen couldn't have happened a moment sooner, because you needed to become the version of yourself capable of holding it. Think of a fruit ripening on a tree. If it's picked too soon, it spoils. If it stays too long, it rots. The Father knows the exact second when the fruit of your obedience is ready to be revealed. That's the timing of heaven, perfect, patient, and precise. In the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 11, the scripture reveals, He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. That's the mystery. You can't always see what He's doing, but it's always beautiful when it unfolds. Every unanswered prayer, every postponed dream, was part of a bigger rhythm orchestrated for your good. There's a story of a man who planted a vineyard. Every day he watered, pruned, and waited. Seasons came and went, yet no fruit appeared. His neighbors mocked him, saying, "Maybe your soil is cursed." But one morning, years later, he awoke to the fragrance of ripened grapes stretching across the hills. The delay wasn't failure, it was multiplication. Every root was deepening, unseen, so the fruit could last for generations. That's what's happening in your life. Heaven wasn't withholding, it was building longevity. God doesn't bless you to make a moment shine, He blesses you to make a lifetime glow. The waiting season was sacred architecture, not wasted time. You see, divine timing is like the tide. You can't force it, and you can't stop it. But when it comes, it carries everything with it. What's approaching now isn't trickling, it's tidal. Heaven has scheduled your unveiling. What's been held back is about to surge forward in divine acceleration. Sometimes God delays not because you're unready, but because someone connected to your blessing is still being positioned. He's aligning hearts, shifting people, preparing places you haven't even stepped into. You'll look back one day and say, if it had happened earlier, I would have missed something essential. This is the turning point. You can sense the rhythm changing, can't you? The waiting feels lighter, the horizon brighter. That's because divine timing has turned in your favor. Heaven has moved from not yet to now. You've waited faithfully. And now the same God who hid you is about to reveal you. Everything that was delayed will feel like it's rushing to catch up. What took years will suddenly align in days. Doors that resisted you will swing wide with ease. It won't make sense, but it will make history. Chosen one, your time is here. And heaven wants you to recognize it not through anxiety, but through awareness. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, listen closely. The wind that once whispered, "Wait," is now saying, "Go." If this resonates in your spirit, take a moment of sacred agreement. Type 444 inches the comments below, not as a ritual, but as a symbol, a declaration that you trust God's timing. That number represents open gates, alignment, and divine order. It's your way of saying, I'm ready to move when heaven moves. When you write it, imagine pressing your fingerprint into eternity. You're not just commenting, you're marking agreement with heaven's schedule. You're saying, I release control, and I receive divine order. Now, this moment is the hinge between waiting and walking. The door is swinging open. Don't rush through it, step with reverence. Everything is converging now. Prayers, promises, preparation. The long silence has turned into song. And as you move forward, remember this, God's timing is not slow, it's strategic. He has been saving the best wine for last. And now He's pouring it. The season that felt like delay was really preservation. You weren't forgotten, you were being kept fresh for the right moment. So lift your head. Chosen one, the clock of heaven has struck your hour. When you type 444, you're echoing heaven's code for alignment. 4 corners, 4 winds, 4 directions symbolizing stability, foundation, and divine order, anchoring your destiny. That number says, my steps are established. It's heaven's way of confirming that your waiting has ended. And now, everything around you begins to synchronize with purpose. The moment divine timing begins to unfold, the enemy grows restless. He knows he can no longer delay what heaven has decreed. So he tries one last trick, distraction. He cannot destroy destiny, but he can distort focus. That's why, right when things start to shift, the noise gets louder, the confusion sharper, and the temptation stronger. Distraction is his oldest weapon. It never looks dangerous, it looks appealing. It comes disguised as opportunities that drain you, relationships that glitter but don't grow you, or emotions that rise like sudden storms. If he can't stop the blessing, he'll try to steal your attention long enough for you to miss the door that's opening. You've felt this before, right? When peace starts to settle, chaos suddenly knocks. When you begin to move forward, old habits whisper, just one more time. When your confidence strengthens, old insecurities reappear, demanding to be fed. But now you see the pattern. These aren't coincidences, they're distractions dressed as decisions. In the book of Nehemiah, chapter 6, verse 3, the scripture recounts a moment of holy focus. I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? That was Nehemiah's response to those who tried to pull him off the wall he was building. He understood something vital. You cannot complete divine assignments if you keep coming down to fight earthly battles. You must stay on the wall. The enemy doesn't fear your past, he fears your progress. As long as you're distracted, you're harmless. But once you start moving in clarity, heaven's light exposes his chaos. That's when he throws everything at you, not because you're weak, but because you're close. The final distraction always comes just before breakthrough. For some, it's offense, sudden misunderstandings that try to fracture your peace. For others, it's exhaustion, a heavy weariness that whispers, maybe you should stop. And for many, it's fear, the illusion that you might lose everything if you keep obeying. But hear this truth. Fear is always loudest when the promise is nearest. There was once a young man who trained for years to climb a mountain. On the morning of his ascent, the skies darkened and the winds howled. Many around him turned back, saying the mountain didn't want them there. But he knew better. The storm wasn't a sign to quit. It was a sign that he was close to the summit. He climbed anyway, and at dawn, he saw what the clouds had been hiding, a sunrise so vast it seemed to baptize the sky. That's what this moment feels like for you. The resistance isn't rejection, it's confirmation. Heaven allows one final shaking to reveal what cannot be shaken. The distractions test your devotion. Every time you choose focus over noise, you strengthen your spiritual muscles. Every time you say no to something that glitters but isn't gold, you polish your crown. The enemy hopes you'll fight unnecessary battles, arguments that drain your peace, comparisons that steal your joy, anxieties that make you forget the promise. But you've outgrown that now. You know that not every invitation deserves your attention. Some doors are bait, not blessing. Think of a lighthouse standing firm in the storm. Waves crash, winds roar, but the light keeps turning. It doesn't argue with the sea, it just shines. That's your posture now, unbothered, unwavering, illuminated. You don't need to justify your path to those who can't see the map. You don't need to explain what God has whispered in your heart. Stay steady. Stay lit. There's power in stillness. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is remain unmoved. Let the noise exhaust itself. Let chaos run out of breath. The one who can stay calm in crisis has already won half the battle. Distraction is not your enemy's weapon anymore. It's your teacher. Each time it comes, it reminds you how focused you've become. Once you see the pattern, you no longer fall for it. You watch it, acknowledge it, and keep walking. Chosen one, this is your season of holy concentration. Heaven is revealing blueprints that require your undivided heart. Guard it fiercely. The same hands that formed galaxies are now guiding you, one quiet step at a time. You don't need to hurry. You don't need to explain. The path is already unfolding beneath your feet. Every false light will fade. Every imitation opportunity will dissolve. What's real will remain, and it will call your name in peace, not pressure. So stay on your wall, builder of light. Keep your eyes steady and your spirit unshaken. The distractions around you are proof that the construction within you is almost complete. And soon, when the dust settles and silence returns, you'll see what heaven was building through your focus, a foundation so strong that no storm can ever shake it again. Something in the atmosphere shifts the veil that once covered your sight begins to lift. You start to notice what was hidden in plain view, the patterns, the lessons, the divine fingerprints scattered across every chapter of your life. They all begin to make sense now. The veil isn't torn violently, it's drawn back gently, like morning light dissolving the fog. There's a stillness that comes with revelation. You no longer rush to interpret everything. You simply begin to see. Understanding is not forced, it flows. What you once called coincidence now looks like orchestration. What felt like delay now feels like timing. The fog of confusion clears, and you realize you were never walking blind, you were walking by faith. When the veil lifts, you see that heaven was never distant. It was layered all around you like invisible ink that only appears under the right light. Every conversation, every detour, every closed door had divine handwriting on it. You were being guided even when you thought you were guessing. It is written in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 16, "But whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away." That's what has happened. You've turned your heart toward the light. And now clarity floods in. What was once mysterious becomes meaningful. The unanswered questions begin to whisper their own answers. Not through explanation, but through peace. Seeing through the veil is like seeing the world through new eyes. The same people, the same places, the same memories, but they look different because your vision has changed. You no longer see pain as punishment, but as preparation. You no longer see waiting as emptiness, but as incubation. Even loss doesn't look like loss anymore. It looks like pruning, clearing space for fruit that lasts. Revelation doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it comes quietly through a sentence in a book, a stranger's kindness, or a sunset that suddenly feels personal. God doesn't shout in revelation. He unfolds. You begin to feel His presence woven into ordinary moments, like light hidden between the threads of your day. There's a story of a young girl who used to watch her grandmother weave fabric on an old wooden loom. From underneath, the threads looked tangled, chaotic, senseless. But when her grandmother lifted her up to see from above, the pattern was breathtaking, perfect symmetry made from apparent disorder. That's what the unveiling feels like. For years, you saw the underside of your story. Now heaven lifts you to see the design from above. The veil was never about distance, it was about development. It protected you from seeing things before you were ready to understand them. Some truths can only be held by hearts that have healed. God doesn't hide to tease, He hides to time. Now that the veil has lifted, you see how the dark nights carried light you couldn't perceive. You realize that God was working in the shadows, not behind your back, but behind the scenes. He wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was answering them in ways too intricate to explain. Clarity brings humility. You no longer rush to judge others' seasons because you remember how misunderstood yours once looked. You start to offer grace instead of opinions, prayers instead of criticism. The unveiling softens you. It doesn't make you superior, it makes you serene. And in this new light, you begin to understand how heaven's language works. God rarely explains, He reveals. He shows you pieces and invites you to trust the rest. Faith is the bridge between what's known and what's still unfolding. This clarity also makes you more aware of beauty. You notice details. You used to overlook the warmth in someone's smile, the melody in quiet spaces, the sacred rhythm of your own heartbeat. Awareness itself becomes worship. Every breath feels like prayer. You've stepped into what the ancients called the seeing season. The noise has faded, and now discernment speaks. You can tell the difference between divine doors and distracting detours. You recognize counterfeit comfort for what it is. The veil that once hid deception has been torn, and your spirit has become your compass. Chosen one. This is what revelation feels like, not an explosion, but an unveiling. You were never blind, you were being refined. Now that you see, you will never see the same way again. The world hasn't changed, but you have. Let this sight humble you. Let it steady you. And most of all, let it remind you that vision is not for vanity, it's for service. You see clearly now, so you can guide others who still wander in the mist. You become the lighthouse for those still in the storm. And when they ask how you see so clearly, you'll smile and say, "The veil was never gone, my eyes just opened." And you stand now at the threshold, the line between what has been promised and what is about to be revealed. There's a stillness in this moment, a sacred pause where heaven watches closely. You can almost feel it, the weight of waiting, giving way to the wind of fulfillment. This is the place between prophecy and reality. The ground beneath your feet hums with expectation. You've walked through pain, silence, refinement, revelation, and now, destiny calls your name. But before you step through, heaven wants you to understand something. Thresholds are not just places of transition, they are places of testing. Standing here, you must decide what you will carry forward and what must be left behind. The threshold doesn't just open a door, it filters your baggage, pride, fear, resentment. None of them can enter with you. Only surrender can cross. As revealed in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." That's the promise echoing in your spirit right now. You're not stepping into the unknown alone. You're stepping with God beside you, within you, before you. The same power that split the sea for Moses now clears the path for you. But courage, real courage, isn't loud. It's not the absence of fear, it's the quiet decision to move forward anyway. You may still feel unsure, but heaven measures obedience, not certainty. The first step is always the hardest because it's taken in faith, not sight. Think of a traveler standing before a great bridge suspended in mist. They can't see the other side, but they hear a faint whisper, "Go." Every step makes the bridge appear underfoot, one plank at a time. That's what faith looks like, building a path by walking it. You are that traveler now. The bridge you're about to cross was built in your waiting season. Each prayer, each tear, each act of quiet endurance became a plank beneath your feet. Heaven has finished construction. All that's left is your first step. This is why the threshold feels heavy. It carries both ending and beginning. You're closing one book while opening another. But don't mourn the ending. The final chapter was never failure, it was foundation. What you've learned there will sustain what's coming next. Every destiny requires a doorway, and every doorway requires a decision. Heaven has already prepared your passage. The light ahead isn't a destination, it's your invitation. Don't let hesitation hold you at the border of breakthrough. The walls that once intimidated you have already cracked under divine timing. As you take that first step, remember this: Courage isn't found in the absence of fear, it's discovered in the presence of purpose. And your purpose is calling loudly now. Sometimes, the final confirmation heaven gives isn't a miracle, it's a moment of peace. You'll feel it in your chest, like a steady pulse. That's how you know the threshold is safe to cross. Now, before you move forward, take one deep breath. Feel the air change around you. The atmosphere that once resisted you now carries you. Everything you've survived has built this bridge. You are ready. If your spirit agrees with what heaven is speaking now, write these words in the comments. I step in. Let those 3 words be more than text on a screen. Let them be your covenant with destiny. When you write them, imagine the door glowing before you, the light spilling through. Each letter becomes a step. Each word a heartbeat that says, I accept what heaven has arranged for me. This isn't just a comment, it's an act of faith. It's heaven's way of recording your consent to destiny's invitation. As your fingers move, the unseen world moves with you. You are not typing, you are entering. This is your spiritual crossing point. The past cannot follow you here. The next chapter will not wait forever. The gate is open. The path is clear. And heaven is watching with anticipation. Take one final look behind you, not with regret, but with gratitude. Every tear you shed, every prayer you whispered, every trial you endured, they built this moment. Now, step, cross the unseen bridge. Enter the new chapter written in light. Because this time, the promise isn't delayed, it's delivered. And when your foot touches the other side, the heavens will whisper what they've been waiting to say. Welcome home, chosen one. The threshold has been crossed. You've stepped through the threshold, and something within you knows there's no going back. What once felt like distance now feels like direction. The air is different here. Clearer, lighter, alive with the fragrance of fulfillment. You are walking in the space where prophecy begins to meet reality. At first, it feels almost unreal. You glance around and wonder, is this really happening? But heaven doesn't whisper, maybe it declares now. The promises that once lived only in your prayers are beginning to take shape before your eyes. The invisible is turning visible, and your faith, your long-tested, often questioned faith, is now bearing fruit. The words of the prophet Habakkuk echo through time. Chapter 2, verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, though it tarry. Wait for it, for it will surely come. It will not delay. You waited. You hoped. You held on when logic told you to let go. And now, what you carried in your spirit for so long is beginning to breathe in the world around you. Heaven's timeline has finally aligned with Earth's. When prophecy becomes reality, it doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it enters softly like sunrise, touching the corners of a quiet room. You'll notice small signs first, the right person crossing your path, the confirmation in a conversation, the opportunity that feels like it was waiting just for you. They're all whispers saying, it's time. Think of rain after a long drought. At first, just a drop, then another. Then suddenly the dry earth opens, drinking deeply what it once only dreamed of. That's how fulfillment comes slowly. Then all at once, every barren place within you begins to bloom again. In this moment, heaven isn't asking you to rush, it's inviting you to rejoice. You've carried the promise like a seed through storms, through seasons of silence. And now it's breaking open. What was invisible beneath the soil is emerging into sight. And as you see it, gratitude wells up deep, yet unstoppable. You realize that every unanswered prayer was answered differently. Every delay was disguised mercy. The hands that withheld were the same hands that prepared. This is the moment when faith graduates into testimony. And testimonies are never meant to be hoarded, they are meant to be shared. Your story becomes a bridge for others still standing in the storm. When you click like or share, imagine you're sending out a ripple in a vast ocean. That ripple might reach someone whose hope has almost drowned. One small act from you becomes the wave that carries them to shore. You never know whose night will end because your light reached them. When you subscribe, see it not as a button, but as joining a circle around a fire. Each time you return, the flame grows brighter, the warmth stronger. Together, we create a space where revelation continues to unfold, where those who wander can find light again. And if your heart stirs to give, to donate toward this ongoing work, let it be as natural as a tree giving fruit, not forced, not guilt-driven, just a reflection of abundance. What flows from gratitude never runs dry. Every gift, no matter the size, becomes another candle lit on the table of someone else's faith. Imagine your donation as a seed carried by the wind. It lands where you may never walk, grows where you may never see, but its shade will one day shelter another weary soul. You don't give to pay, you give to plant. And if all you can offer is your presence, your prayer, your listening heart, know that heaven values that too. The movement of light grows with every soul that simply says, "Yes, I'm here. I believe." Chosen one, you are standing in a living prophecy. The promise hasn't just arrived, it's unfolding. It will keep revealing layer after layer as you walk in it, and each step forward will echo through someone else's story, turning their waiting into believing. So walk with gratitude. Celebrate what is becoming real before your eyes. Like, share, subscribe, and if your heart feels led, sow a seed, not because you must, but because you can, because light shared is light multiplied. This is the beauty of divine fulfillment. It doesn't end with you, it begins through you. Heaven's promise has ripened, and your life is now the living proof that what God speaks, He performs. And as you lift your eyes, you realize the prophecy isn't just something that happened, it's something still happening through you. You've become heaven's continuation, walking proof that promises don't expire. They evolve. Your life itself is now the message God refuses to stop speaking. When divine fulfillment begins to manifest, something else awakens with it. Momentum. What once moved slowly now flows with grace and precision. It's as if time itself has remembered your name and come running to catch up. The delays dissolve. The patterns align. And everything that once resisted suddenly begins to cooperate. You sense it in small ways first. Tasks that once felt heavy now move easily. Connections form without effort. And solutions that eluded you for years suddenly appear with clarity. This is not luck, it's divine acceleration. It's heaven pressing its fingerprint onto your timeline. Acceleration doesn't mean chaos, it means rhythm. It's the perfect sync between heaven's intention and your obedience. When those two align, even time becomes a servant to purpose. What used to take months happens in moments. What felt impossible becomes inevitable. The ancient words in the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 13, describe this sacred speed. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman and the planter by the one treading grapes. And that's what this season feels like. Harvest catching up with sowing. The work you did years ago, the prayers you whispered long ago, the love you gave when no one noticed, it's all rushing back multiplied. Every seed is remembering its assignment. Divine acceleration doesn't happen because you finally became perfect. It happens because God's timing has turned in your favor. You've matured enough to handle what once would have crushed you. You've learned to rest while running, to listen while leading. The lessons of waiting have become the tools of moving. Think of a river that once trickled between stones, but now overflows with spring rain. The water hasn't changed, it's just found its flow. That's you. You're not trying harder, you're finally aligned. But even in acceleration, wisdom is vital. Momentum can be both blessing and burden if you don't carry it with awareness. When the current grows strong, stay anchored in gratitude. The same patience that sustained you in waiting will keep you humble in moving. There's a subtle danger in seasons of speed, the temptation to think the blessing came from your own strength. But acceleration isn't a reward. It's a reminder. It tells you that heaven is faithful, that the seeds of obedience were never forgotten. Every acceleration is heaven saying, I saw it all. I once heard a story of a craftsman who built wooden clocks. Each one took months of delicate carving. But one day, a storm knocked his tools from the table, and a piece he thought ruined became the most beautiful part of his masterpiece. That's acceleration, the unexpected alignment of what seemed broken, now made perfect by divine intervention. You've entered that rhythm. It feels almost effortless, yet sacred. Conversations open doors. Ideas attract opportunity. Even the challenges that arise now come with solutions hidden inside them. You begin to realize that acceleration doesn't eliminate struggle, it just changes your strength. The energy you once used to survive is now used to build. The tears that once watered the ground now shine as dew on your harvest. You've become a participant in heaven's movement, not just a witness. This momentum carries peace, not pressure. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you believe. You no longer wait for permission, you walk in authority. It's like standing on a moving walkway in an airport. You're still walking, but something larger is carrying you faster than your own pace could achieve. That's divine assistance, grace accelerating your obedience. But remember, acceleration isn't about speed, it's about sequence. God is not rushing you, He's releasing you. Everything that once felt behind is now right on time. The pieces fit, the paths merge, and the vision sharpens. This season also brings restoration. What you thought was lost in the delay is returned, often doubled. People, opportunities, strength. Everything you gave up for the sake of obedience is finding its way back. Redeemed by time itself. Chosen one. You don't need to force this. You don't need to understand every detail. Just stay steady in the flow. Acceleration requires trust more than control. The same hands that held you still in waiting are now guiding you swiftly in motion. Let this momentum move through you, not just around you. Carry peace as your pace. Walk gently, even when things move fast. And remember, The God who accelerates you also sustains you. Soon, you'll look back and realize that every delay was perfectly designed to set up this rush of grace. What once felt like waiting has turned into flying. You are not behind, you are right on divine schedule. The current of heaven is carrying you exactly where you were always meant to be. You feel it now, the rhythm of heaven pulsing through your days. You're no longer guessing where to go or what to do. Your spirit has become the compass. Each step seems guided by an invisible hand. Each decision wrapped in quiet certainty. You've learned to walk not by sight, but by sensitivity. And in that still awareness, a new truth rises. You carry the key. What once felt locked is no longer sealed. Because the key was never outside of you. It was always within. The waiting, the breaking, the revelation, to the acceleration. All of it was heaven's way of placing the key into your own hands. You realize now that doors don't open by force, they open by alignment. Heaven doesn't respond to noise, it responds to knowing. When you finally understand who you are and who sent you, the door recognizes your identity and swings open without resistance. The letter to the Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 35, declares this truth in timeless rhythm. Do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. Confidence is the key. Not arrogance, not striving, but holy assurance that you and heaven move as one. When you carry divine confidence, locked gates lose their power. They were never meant to deny you, only to wait for you to remember who you are. Picture a musician walking into a silent hall. At first, it seems empty, but when she begins to play, the walls themselves come alive, resonating with sound. The music doesn't come from the hall, it comes from her. The key within her awakens what's around her. That's what's happening to you. Your presence unlocks potential wherever you stand. There was once a man who spent years trying to open a great wooden door at the center of his village. Every tool he used failed. Then, one day, he leaned against it in surrender, and the door opened effortlessly. It wasn't locked. It had only been waiting for stillness. That's the lesson heaven whispers now. You don't need to fight for access. You are the access. Every room you enter changes atmosphere. Every word you speak carries creative power. You no longer wait for favor, you walk in it. This realization shifts how you move. You begin to pray differently, speak differently, even dream differently. You stop asking, Lord, will you open this for me? And start saying, Lord, show me how to use the key you've already placed inside me. When you move with that revelation, life responds. People sense it, even if they can't explain it. Doors that ignored you before now seem eager to welcome you. You are no longer chasing opportunities, they're aligning themselves to meet you. Chosen one. This is what maturity feels like. You've gone from seeking permission to walking in purpose. Heaven no longer needs to prove itself to you, it's living through you. You've become the gatekeeper of divine flow, the living intersection between promise and manifestation. But with revelation comes responsibility. You hold a master key. Now, use it with reverence. Every word you release, every choice you make, carries spiritual consequence. Speak blessings where others curse. Open pathways for others to find their light. You unlock not just for yourself, but for those assigned to your orbit. Confidence, when rooted in humility, becomes a weapon of peace. It silences insecurity and invites favor to rest upon you. You are not boasting, you are believing, and that belief itself moves mountains. This is a sacred moment of recognition. Heaven leans close as you hold the invisible key in your spirit. You can almost feel its weight. It hums with destiny. Every trial forged it. Every prayer polished it. Now, it gleams with readiness. If your heart understands this truth, if you feel that quiet agreement rising within, type 333 inches, the comments below. That number represents divine completion, body, soul, and spirit moving as one. It symbolizes the unity between you and heaven, between the Creator and the created. When you write it, you're not just leaving a mark, you're declaring, I carry the key, and I choose to use it in alignment with grace. See the number as light, each 3, a reflection of divine harmony. The first mirrors God's presence. The second, your purpose. The third, your partnership with eternity. Together, they form a triangle of power, stability, and peace. When you type 333, imagine holding your key to the light and saying, I am ready to unlock what's mine, not by striving, but by surrender. That small act becomes a symbolic turning of the lock in heaven's door. Everything you've walked through has led to this revelation. The authority was never outside you, it was always within. The greatest door you'll ever open is the one inside your spirit. And now it stands wide. So, walk forward. Key bearer, open what was once closed. Speak where silence reigned. And let every unlocked moment echo this truth. Heaven's key has found its keeper. The moment you accept that the key is within you, something begins to shift deep in your soul. It's subtle at first, a soft release, like a door opening inside your chest. You realize that to move forward fully, you must also let go, not of destiny, but of weight, not of calling, but of control. This is the great exchange, the sacred trade that every chosen one must make before walking in fullness. It's not about gaining more, it's about surrendering what no longer belongs to you. The fear that used to whisper, what if? The guilt that clung to your memory like shadow. The self-doubt that questioned your worth every time God called your name. They can't come with you now. Heaven doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for purity. And purity is born in surrender. The moment you release what was never yours to carry, your hands become light enough to receive what was always meant for you. In the letter to the Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, the ancient truth still speaks. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. All transformation doesn't happen through effort, it happens through exchange. You let go of your old thoughts, so heaven can plant new ones. You stop striving to prove yourself and begin to rest in the truth that you were chosen long before you performed. Think of a caterpillar dissolving inside the cocoon. From the outside, it looks like nothing but stillness. But inside, an entire identity is being rewritten. Old cells break apart so that new wings can form. That's what's happening in you. Heaven is rewriting your structure. You are no longer who you were. You're becoming who you were meant to be. This exchange isn't easy. Letting go never is. There are moments when you'll feel the pull of what's familiar, the temptation to return to the old because it feels safe. But safety is not the same as destiny. The cocoon feels safe, but it's too small for flight. The exchange asks for trust. It invites you to trade your fear for faith, your anxiety for alignment. You begin to see that every loss was really a liberation. Every ending was mercy in disguise. There's a story told of an artist who once sculpted angels from discarded metal. When asked how she found beauty in rusted scraps, she smiled and said, "The pieces were never waste, they were waiting." That's how heaven sees your broken parts. Nothing wasted, only waiting to be reshaped. You may have carried sorrow like armor, thinking it made you strong, but heaven shows you now, it was never armor, it was weight. Strength isn't about carrying everything, it's about knowing what to set down. And when you finally lay it all at the altar, the fear, the regret, the memory of every failure, you will feel something rise inside you. It's not pride, it's peace. The peace that comes when you no longer fight what God has already forgiven. This peace is not fragile, it's foundational. It becomes your new ground, the steady floor beneath your next steps. You walk lighter because nothing drags behind you anymore. You smile differently because you no longer perform for love. You move from love. The great exchange continues quietly. Every day, you wake up and choose surrender again and again. You stop asking, "What do I deserve?" and start whispering, "What do you desire?" And in that shift, life itself changes tone. The voice of heaven becomes clearer because your inner noise has gone quiet. Revelation flows faster because resistance has been removed. Joy doesn't come from outcomes anymore. It flows from obedience. Chosen one, you've entered the most sacred part of transformation, the holy emptiness before overflow. Don't rush to fill it. Let heaven breathe into it. Let peace settle into the spaces where worry used to live. The exchange is not a single moment, it's a lifestyle. Every day you'll trade heaviness for holiness, fear for faith, control for communion. And each time you do, more of your true identity emerges. There will be mornings when you wake up and realize you don't recognize yourself, and that's good. It means the old version has finally laid down her sword, and the new one is learning how to soar. You are becoming weightless. You are learning the art of divine exchange, not through effort, but through release. Heaven is no longer something you chase, it's something that flows through you. And when people look at you and ask how you changed, you'll simply smile and say, "I didn't hold on, I let go." And something magnificent happens when you finally release what no longer serves your spirit. You begin to glow from within. It isn't the shallow glow of pride or the fleeting shimmer of accomplishment. It's the steady light of alignment. You no longer need to prove who you are, because heaven's reflection already rests upon you. You've become transparent. What flows through you is light itself. Heaven notices when a soul reaches this stillness. Angels mark it as the moment of recognition. For the first time, your name is not just written in the book of life, it vibrates. It becomes a frequency heaven responds to. Every command, every whisper, every movement from the divine realm now flows in perfect sync with your obedience. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 7. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. That's happening now. Heaven's army surrounds you, not as distant protectors, but as divine partners. You've become part of their movement, a living participant in heaven's orchestration on earth. The air around you feels charged because glory has become your atmosphere. There was once a story told among the early mystics of a shepherd boy who played his flute in the hills at night. He didn't know that angels listened. Every melody he played in solitude echoed through realms unseen. One night, while he played, the sky shimmered, and a voice whispered, "We've always heard you." He hadn't changed his song. The heavens had simply opened to respond. That's how it feels when glory recognizes you. You've been singing in the dark for years. Your prayers, your persistence, your purity, and now heaven sings back. The light that once seemed far away now dances upon your shoulders. You don't chase favor anymore. You carry it. Glory is not a spotlight. It's a covering. It doesn't make you perform. It makes you pure. You move differently because grace has replaced striving. You speak differently because wisdom now filters every word. Even silence feels holy because it carries weight. When heaven's army recognizes you, you begin to notice small miracles woven into the ordinary, the timing of a conversation, the comfort in a song, the peace that settles even when storms rage. Angels are subtle in their movements, yet their fingerprints mark everything they touch. You might not see them, but you feel the alignment. Doors open with grace instead of struggle. Protection arrives before danger forms. The path ahead feels less like walking and more like being carried. That's because you are. The divine has taken over your direction. But this recognition is not about privilege, it's about purpose. Heaven's army moves with you because your obedience matters to eternity. When you speak, you shift atmospheres. When you love, you disarm darkness. You've become a vessel of divine strategy, a lighthouse placed where shadows once ruled. Glory doesn't isolate you, it integrates you. You start to see how every act of kindness becomes warfare against despair. How every prayer whispered in sincerity creates ripples of healing across unseen realms. You begin to understand that your simple presence, peaceful, steady, surrendered, is a declaration of victory in a noisy world. There's a sacred power in quiet radiance. You don't need to shout to be seen or fight to be followed. True light doesn't compete. It simply shines. And darkness, no matter how deep, cannot comprehend it. As glory expands around you, humility deepens within you. The more aware you become of heaven's strength, the less you need to prove your own. You no longer pray from panic, but from partnership. You no longer plead for answers, you perceive them. Chosen one. You've entered the dimension of divine recognition. Your name is known, your spirit acknowledged, your authority affirmed. This is not the end of your journey, it's the unveiling of your identity. You are not merely blessed, you are entrusted. And with that trust comes a new kind of peace, the peace that carries power, the peace that doesn't depend on conditions, because it flows from connection. You know now that heaven's army doesn't just guard you, they move with you. Every time you act in love, they march. Every time you choose mercy, they advance. Every time you forgive, they conquer territory unseen. You've become part of something eternal, woven into heaven's strategy for redemption. The light surrounding you is not borrowed, it's inherited. It burns brighter with every act of alignment. You no longer wait for confirmation from people. Your confirmation comes from presence. You are walking proof that divine recognition is not a dream, it's a destiny. You don't just carry glory, you are its reflection. And as heaven's army continues to move with you, the world will see what it looks like when obedience and glory walk hand in hand. You've reached the part of the journey where heaven no longer tests your faith, it trusts it. The war for your future isn't waged with noise and chaos anymore. It's fought in quiet obedience, in steady faithfulness, in love that endures when logic runs thin. Darkness knows it has no hold on you now. That's why the air feels heavier. At times it's the last resistance before complete release. There's something sacred about this final stretch. It's not a battlefield littered with defeat. It's a birthing ground glowing with promise. You can sense that heaven has shifted from defense to declaration. Angels no longer circle to protect you. They march ahead to make way for the glory assigned to your name. The apostle wrote in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 4, "The weapons we fight with are not of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds." That's the weapon you carry now, not anger, not pride, but divine power. It moves quietly, like light piercing through cracks, like truth unraveling lies. You don't fight the same way anymore because you've learned the secret of divine warfare. Rest is resistance. Peace is power. Love is your sharpest sword. In this season, the battle isn't to prove your strength, it's to protect your focus. The enemy cannot defeat what he cannot distract. And you, chosen one, have become undistractable. You stand now in the center of your calling, steady, radiant, unstoppable. The heavens look on with recognition. You are not the trembling soul who once begged for a sign. You are the torchbearer who walks with flames in both hands. The victory isn't coming. It's already echoing through your footsteps. But victory carries a responsibility to share the light you've received, because every triumph whispered through your life becomes a map for another weary traveler. Every word that healed you might be the key to someone else's breakthrough. When you click like or share, don't see it as a reaction, see it as a reflection. It's the way a mirror catches sunlight and passes it on. Each act of sharing becomes a beam that travels farther than you can imagine. You're not promoting a message, you're extending a miracle. Somewhere, someone waits to hear the words that once rescued you. When you subscribe, think of it as returning to a sacred well. Each message that flows here is water drawn from heaven's reservoir. You don't come because you're thirsty. You come because you've tasted what's real. And you know others will too. The act of subscribing becomes your silent agreement with heaven. Keep pouring. I will keep receiving. And if your heart ever stirs to donate, see it not as giving something away, but as planting something eternal. A seed never cries when it leaves the hand. It rejoices because it knows where it's going. Every gift, every offering, every contribution becomes a continuation of light. You may never see the faces your generosity touches, but heaven does. And in its unseen balance, nothing goes unnoticed. Imagine your support as lanterns floating across a river. One by one, they drift and glow, lighting paths for those who've lost their way. Some will never know who set the flame. They'll only know they found light when they needed it most. That's what your giving does. It turns compassion into movement. You don't do this out of obligation, you do it out of overflow. Because something in your spirit remembers the night you were in darkness, and how one word of truth lit your way. You simply pass that flame onward, knowing light shared is never diminished. Even your comments, those small words left behind, become echoes of hope. They're not just text on a screen, their testimonies written in digital stone. Somewhere, someone scrolling in silence might see your words and find courage to keep breathing, keep believing, keep becoming. This space we build together isn't about algorithms or numbers, it's about altars. Every interaction is an offering. Every connection, a kind of worship. Heaven watches this digital temple rise one click, one word, one seed at a time. So, as you walk forward in this victory, know this: you are not just receiving light, you're distributing it. The war for your future has been won, but the work of love continues. And every time you give, share, or speak, you take part in heaven's quiet revolution, the spread of divine light across the world. Let your engagement be sacred. Let your generosity be joyful. Let your presence here be purposeful. None of it is required, yet all of it is holy, because in the end, every like becomes a whisper of gratitude. Every share becomes a stream of light. Every comment becomes a bridge for healing. Every donation becomes a seed of eternity. And heaven smiles not because you were told to act, but because you chose to love. The air feels different now. It's not the tension before battle or the exhaustion after struggle. It's the calm that follows victory. The kind of stillness that carries weight, as if even creation pauses to listen. You've walked through fire, storm, silence, revelation, and acceleration. And now you stand in a space drenched in quiet glory. The war has ended, and what remains is peace. This is the unveiling of glory, the moment when heaven's light doesn't just touch you, it radiates through you. You don't chase signs anymore. You've become one. You don't pray for miracles. You live as proof of them. Every step you take, every breath you release, whispers of divine fulfillment. Glory isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It's like the afterglow of dawn, gentle but undeniable. It lingers on you, soft yet fierce, as if the very essence of God has learned your rhythm. You carry it into rooms that once felt heavy, and they lighten simply because you're there. The glory doesn't announce itself, it reveals itself through peace, through wisdom, through love that doesn't need to be seen, to be known. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 3, verse 4, paints this image beautifully. His splendor was like the sunrise, rays flashed from his hand, where his power was hidden. This isn't just poetry, it's prophecy fulfilled in you. You are the reflection of that splendor. The sunrise breaking through long nights of waiting. The same light that once guided you now flows from within you. You no longer search for direction, you are direction to others, still wandering in the dark. There was once an old craftsman who carved mirrors out of polished metal. When asked how he made them shine so brightly, he said, "The light doesn't come from the metal, it comes from the one who looks into it." That's what glory feels like. It isn't something you carry on you, it's something heaven sees through you. You've become the mirror that reflects God's beauty into the world. This glory doesn't separate you from the world. It integrates you into it. It makes you gentle, kind, deeply aware of others' pain. You no longer see people as obstacles or threats. You see them as reflections of the same divine spark. Glory doesn't elevate you above others. It allows you to kneel lower, to serve deeper, to love wider. You notice that your prayers have changed. They're no longer filled with requests, they're filled with gratitude. You speak less, Listen more. You move slower, but accomplish more. Every action feels deliberate. Every thought wrapped in reverence. You've discovered that the true weight of glory isn't power, it's presence. There's a peace that accompanies this awareness. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you've learned how to flow with heaven instead of fighting against it. You used to wrestle with timing, but now you trust it. You used to chase answers, but now you rest in knowing. Glory teaches balance. It reminds you that power without purity becomes pride, and humility without confidence becomes silence. Heaven has trained you in both the boldness to speak truth and the gentleness to speak love. You carry authority, but it's cloaked in compassion. Sometimes you catch glimpses of it in unexpected places, the way someone's eyes soften when you speak, the way peace follows your presence like a shadow. You realize you're not just walking through the world anymore, you're weaving heaven into it. Every smile, every word of kindness, every quiet prayer is a thread of glory connecting earth to eternity. This is what heaven was preparing all along, not for you to escape the world, but to transform it. You've become the proof that light doesn't need to shout to win, it only needs to shine. Glory doesn't mean the absence of storms, it means you've learned to walk through them dry. It means the waves still rise, but they can't drown you. The fire still burns, but it can't consume you. You've become untouchable in spirit, not because of armor, but because of awareness. You know who walks beside you now, chosen one. Glory is not a destination, it's a state of being. It's the realization that heaven has moved in and made its home in you. You no longer visit the presence of God, you carry it. Wherever you go, the atmosphere shifts because heaven recognizes itself in you. And as this revelation settles in, a new kind of stillness fills your heart, the stillness of fulfillment, the quiet awe of knowing you've become what heaven always saw. You are no longer waiting for glory to arrive. You are living proof that it has. You can feel the weight of completion settling gently over you now, not heavy like burden, but deep like peace. The journey that began with uncertainty now glows with understanding. What once felt like wandering was, in truth, a guided path through the wilderness of becoming. You've seen the shadows of your own doubt, faced storms that tested your devotion, and walked through fire that forged your faith into gold. Everything that was hidden now makes sense. Every tear, every delay, every unanswered prayer, all of it led here. This is not an ending, it's fulfillment. You've lived the truth that only those who persevere discover, that the crown is never given to the strongest, but to the steadfast. In the letter to the 2 Timothy, chapter 4, verse 7, we find words that resonate across eternity. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Those words are not just scripture, they are your story. You fought when surrender looked easier. You finished when fatigue whispered to quit. You kept the faith when silence felt unbearable. You didn't escape the fire, you endured it until it became light. The finish line is never loud. There's no trumpet sound, no thunder rolling across the sky. It's quiet, like the closing of a book whose last page glows with understanding. That's how heaven completes its stories, with silence wrapped in meaning. You don't feel empty, you feel whole. There's a kind of beauty only those who've walked through breaking can carry. It's not the shine of perfection, but the glow of redemption. You bear it now, the serenity of one who has seen God's faithfulness up close. You know what it means to lose everything but still lack nothing. Completion feels like breathing after a long dive. The world looks the same, but you see it differently. You see color in ordinary things, the kindness of a stranger, the laughter of a child, the sunrise that feels like an apology from heaven for every dark night you endured. Gratitude replaces striving. Worship replaces worry. Your spirit walks lighter now. The battles that once defined you have turned into testimonies that sustain others. You no longer need to defend your story. Your peace does that for you. The storms didn't take your strength, they revealed it. Think of an ancient runner reaching the end of a long race. He doesn't collapse from exhaustion. He lifts his eyes to the sky, knowing every stride mattered. That's you. Heaven isn't applauding speed, it's honoring endurance. And endurance is love in motion. It's faith that didn't expire when feelings faded. It's obedience that stood when understanding failed. The good fight was never about winning against others. It was about staying true to the light within. There's a sacred quiet that follows completion, a hush that says, "Well done." You hear it not in words, but in peace. It's the sound of heaven's applause moving through your heart. Completion doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you've entered a rhythm of grace. The lessons don't end, they deepen. You no longer fight to prove anything, you move to reveal everything God placed inside you. You stand now as one who has become the message. Your life itself preaches louder than your voice ever could. The way you love, forgive, and stay soft in a hard world is your greatest ministry. There's no need for striving anymore. You've learned that destiny doesn't demand it, invites. You've found your pace within the heartbeat of heaven. Chosen one. You are not closing a chapter, you're sealing a covenant. Heaven's fingerprints are all over your story, and eternity has taken note of your faith. What began in trembling has ended in triumph. What started with questions concludes with quiet certainty. You've run your race. You've kept your faith. And now, you stand not as a seeker, but as a reflection of promise fulfilled, of love proven, of purpose completed. The light you carry will continue beyond you. Every step you've taken leaves a trail of grace for those still running. You are no longer the one searching for signs. You've become the sign that faith works, that love wins, that God finishes what He begins. And as the final chord of your journey resounds, heaven whispers in unison with your spirit, the race is finished. But the song continues. The wind feels softer now, carrying the quiet hum of eternity. You sense heaven breathing through every memory, turning even the hardest moments into golden threads of grace. And as you lift your eyes, you understand the finish isn't finality, it's fulfillment. The story doesn't end here, it simply begins in glory. And now, the story rests in your hands. The words have reached their end, but the message still breathes alive, luminous, waiting to move through you. You are no longer the listener standing at the edge. You are part of the unfolding light itself. Every heartbeat carries the echo of everything heaven has whispered. What happens next isn't about obligation, it's about overflow. When something stirs your soul, the natural response is to let it flow outward. That's how light multiplies, one act of sharing, one small ripple of faith at a time. When you click like or share, it isn't routine, it's remembrance. It's your way of saying, I have seen the light, and I will not keep it to myself. Each time you share, it becomes a spark passed gently from one heart to another. Your comment is more than words. It's a stone laid in the foundation of this temple of truth we're building together. Every thought, every reflection becomes a whisper that tells someone else, "You're not alone. Keep going." Every word you leave behind is a light for someone finding their way. Your voice matters. It becomes part of heaven's ongoing song. When you subscribe, see it as returning to the fire that warmed you. It's saying, "This is where I grow, where my spirit is fed." Each subscription becomes another candle in this expanding circle of light. And if your spirit leads you to donate, think of it as planting a tree whose shade you may never sit under. Every offering, no matter how small, becomes nourishment for hope to reach places your feet may never walk. None of this is demanded. It's simply an invitation to continue what heaven began. The story that touched you becomes the story you help tell. So, take a breath. Chosen one, let the light move through you. The message lives on in your voice, your kindness, your choice to keep the flame alive.